Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. We are recording this podcast on Friday, February 9th. That means the NBA trade deadline has come and gone. It passed yesterday, and the Thunder announced that they had made a move. They have acquired Gordon Hayward from the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Trey Mann, Davis Bertans, and Vasilije Micic, and a couple of picks, cash considerations, all in the press release. But this is new information here for the Thunder and a veteran coming into the roster.
Yeah, he'll be the oldest player on the team coming in at age 33, 6'7", 225 pounds. Gordon Hayward, definitely a household name in terms of a former All-Star and a guy that can do a lot of different things on the floor. Has basically been a 15-5-5 guy, not just this season, but throughout the course of his career. So you think about the way that the Thunder plays. Guys that can make decisions on the floor, can shoot it, can pass it, and can make that next play. Seems to really fit in with that. And so should be interesting and exciting. We're looking forward to maybe getting a chance to meet him over the next few days or however long it takes for him to kind of get in, get settled, and get everything going. Yeah,
we're really excited to see him in a Thunder uniform, see him on the floor. And of course, as we gather more information, talking to Gordon Hayward and of course, Coach Dagnall, we will of course bring that information to you as well.
We do know one thing. He'll be wearing number 33 for the Thunder. So if you guys want to go ahead and get your jerseys all lined up and ordered, you can get that going. But we love when we get those kind of little tidbits of information. Of course, we'll share that stuff with you as it comes along.
Super, super cool stuff. And we welcome Gordon Hayward to the OKC Thunder and Oklahoma City in general. Yeah. It should be fun to have him in this city and in this building. All right. The last time we podcasted, it's been about a week. Mind you, we are very well rested right now. The Thunder has had a nice 3-day break between games. They came from a trip. Their most recent game was in Utah, taking on the Jazz. Before that, though, the Thunder had a double overtime, incredible, thrilling. I mean, there was just so many different elements to this game. We hadn't got a chance to podcast since this game. So, Gallo, let's go back. Let's rewind. Let's roll the tape on this game against the Raptors because there was just so much happening in this game.
So, the Thunder was stuck in the mud for about 2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
The offense just could not quite gain traction. Toronto was playing an incredibly aggressive style of defense on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in particular, doubling him really high, scrambling. Toronto has pretty good athletes and great size. And they were kind of playing this trapping with a zone on the backside, and Scotty Barnes, who's just massive, his arms and his body was everywhere. Yep. And so the Thunder really could not get things going when they were able to get clean catch and shoot looks. They did not go down. And ultimately, midway through the third quarter, OKC got down by 23. And the amazing thing is there's no buckling that happened. And somehow the Thunder just kept sticking with it. And that led to an incredible run there at the end of that third quarter.
Yeah, the Thunder went on a huge run.
I think it was 19-2.
19-3 or 2, something like that. And in the third quarter, they finally tied the game, finally took a lead. But of course, I mean, if a game goes into double overtime, Thunder's not like, pulling away by 13, 12 points. They had to kind of like stiff arm the Raptors. I mean, because this game was just back and forth for the remainder of that quarter and a half there. And it was so, in my brain, I was just like, what's gonna what's happening right now? Because we've seen these runs by the Thunder so many times, right? We've seen them come back. We've seen them, put up massive runs to overcome massive deficits, and then the Raptors, they just wouldn't go away.
No, and this is fortunately everything. We'll tease the end here a little bit. Everything ended up good for the Thunder. They won in double overtime. It was now double-digit comebacks by 10 or more points by the Thunder this season, who has one of the highest marks over the last couple seasons in that regard in terms of being able to charge back from those deficits. But I thought that this team was really personified by the way that Lou Dort handled this game. He started the game 2 for 9 shooting from the field. He kept getting these open looks, and they were within the flow of what the Thunder wanted to do to attack this zone and attack that pressure on Shai.
Yep.
And they weren't going down. Well, as the game went on, Lou adjusted, but he maintained his confidence. So he continued to take some of those threes, and eventually they started to go down. He ended up with 5 makes on the night. But he also adjusted by attacking really wisely into the lane. And he had like 3 drop-off passes to teammates on these great drives and dishes down underneath the bucket. And I don't know if you noticed, but I mentioned the phrase drive and dish.
Well done, Nick Gallo. Wow.
which is the name of my newsletter that you can find on our exclusive Thunder Insider weekly email that goes out every Thursday. You're going to want to subscribe to that. You can go on the Thunder's website and find that Thunder Insider email subscription link. And so in that drive and dish, I wrote about how Lou really embodied what the Thunder wants to do on kind of a mental level of staying engaged, not giving up, sticking with the program, not deviating from the style of play. And then that style of play being, hey, if the shot's there, take it. If it's not, attack a closeout and make the next play, find cutters, find guys that are relocating. And that's exactly what Lou did. And he ended up having just a sensational night in terms of his scoring, in terms of the physical impact.
Yeah.
And of course, he did those things like track down loose balls and knock away loose rebounds as well.
Well, he was one of 5 Thunder players that finished with 20 or more points. I mean, and the 3-point line really played a factor in this. Lou obviously had 5 made threes. The Thunder finished with 23 made threes. And if that sounds like a lot, it's because it ties the Thunder record for most threes made in a game. And that just goes to show how, to your point, Nick, the intelligence that the Thunder played with offensively, especially after the first half of that game, and this is something they've encountered a lot this season, where teams are just throwing a lot of different looks at them. They are changing up their typical go-to defenses to try to stop this steamroller that is the Thunder offense. And so they've had to really find different ways to navigate the kitchen sink being thrown at them. And the Thunder went up against the Raptors team with all of the length that you mentioned. They were really packing the paint. They were really just forcing the Thunder to not get into the paint, not do their typical drive into the paint, kick it out behind the 3-point line. So OKC had to move the ball a lot around the perimeter just to try to create some of those creases, try to create some of those cracks. And the Thunder finished with 40 assists. They finished with 23 made threes. That's an indicator that they were able to just start cracking and unlocking that Raptors defense. And there's one play that I want to talk about because I think it's a great little sidebar here. And I asked Coach about it. The sideline out of bounds play.
Oh my gosh. Beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it was like one of his less razzle dazzle sideline out of bounds plays. He's had some where it's like, oh my gosh, what was that? But this one was just chef's kiss, perfectly executed pass from Josh Giddey, and then cut and finish by Aaron Wiggins, and screen from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Right. I was going to say the pass actually didn't have to be as spectacular because of how spectacular the off-ball movement and screening and cutting was by Shai and Aaron Wiggins. So Josh Giddey, of course, the one that threw this inbounds pass that tied the game and sent it to overtime in what was just a kind of a crazy sequence at the end of regulation. But there was this little tango action that Shai and Aaron Wiggins engaged in right at the free throw line where Aaron screened Shai's guy. And of course, the defense is all geared up for Shai to get the ball in that final second. Yeah. And then Shai turns right around and screens Aaron's guy.
Screen the screener.
Right. Screen the screener. And then Aaron's backdoor for an easy, wide open layup. And the Thunder has gotten that layup, I mean, at least a dozen times over the course of the last 2 seasons.
A wide open layup with there was 5 seconds left, 4 seconds left in this game. A wide open layup under the rim when you're taking the ball out on your sideline is insane. That is a result of incredible play design, incredible passing, and incredible screening and cutting. And you don't get that if one of those things is off.
And how many times? So 5.8 seconds were left on the clock when, by the way, Josh Giddey made another play that probably saved this game, which was after a missed shot by Shai, ball's rolling towards out of bounds. RJ Barrett of the Raptors is about to put both of his hands on it. And Josh comes in, he dives on the floor, taps the ball, and Barrett then has to kind of corral it as he's sliding out of bounds. And Barrett's touching the ball while he's out of bounds. If Josh doesn't make that hustle play, this game is over.
Yep.
Toronto inbounds the ball. They get fouled. There's not enough time to play the foul game and move the ball down the floor. I mean, so that play saves the game. Josh's pass saves the game. And to your point, 5.8 seconds on the shot. 5 seconds left on the clock. How many times do we see a team just get the ball in bounds and somebody hoists a contested 28-footer?
Right.
And the Thunder is getting a wide open layup at the rim. That's a 95% shot.
Yeah.
Whereas most teams are probably getting like a 30% field goal percentage shot on that play.
So this brought up a burning question in my brain. And so I asked Josh and I asked Mark about this. And I asked Josh, I was like, do you get excited like when you get the ball and you're about to go like pass the ball inbounds on the sideline or the baseline? He's like, honestly, yeah, I do. I do. And it's because like the coaches draw up such great plays. And so it's always like, we're going to get a good look.
Yeah.
And he has great chemistry with his teammates too, who know to look for him. So that brought up another burning question in my brain, which was, hey, coach, having a guy like Josh, who is such an elite passer, what does that do for you and how you're able to draw up plays? And he was like, yeah, it really like unlocks the playbook a little bit, because we learned early on that, when most teams are just using sideline out of bounds plays, just get the ball in bounds, we have to incorporate a live cut for Josh, because otherwise we're just leaving opportunity and advantages on the table. And Josh is so adept and so strong at threading the needle, making good, well-timed passes that if we don't put that live cut in there, we might be leaving points on the table.
Yeah.
And so you'll notice every single time the Thunder take the ball out, sideline or baseline, there is one live cut. It might not always be open. It isn't always open, but there's always an opportunity to score on that pass.
It reminds me of in football where if your team's got like a 3rd and 26, a lot of times teams will just like, all right, we're going to run a draw. We're going to just drop a little screen pass. We're going to try to get some yardage to make the punt, a little bit further downfield. The Thunder does not operate that way at all. They're like,
what if we could score a touchdown here?
Like, what if we just had one guy like on a 9 route, one guy on a post, and one guy, maybe we'll have him as an option to dink down. And like the Thunder is trying to score on that possession on the 3rd and 26 when most teams are not.
Yeah, exactly. And I just thought that was so fascinating because like it could only happen if you have a guy like Josh, if you have cutters like Aaron Wiggins, and you have selfless guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who are willing to use their gravity to make the team better. Yeah. And obviously that sideline out of bounds play, I think, is just a microcosm of this team as a whole and how all of those things work together so that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Beautifully, beautifully done. Okay, now we can go into the double overtime part of this.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do that little aside there just because I thought it was awesome. So yeah, game goes into overtime. Overtime's not enough.
Nope.
Both teams only score, I believe, 8 points in the first overtime. The first overtime, both teams only score 8 points. And then we get into the second overtime, and the Thunder's like, all right, I've had enough of this.
We're putting the foot down.
I've had enough of it. We're done playing around here.
Yeah.
They put up 17 points in the second overtime, and it was just a lot of different guys playing a factor in this. Chet had some incredible plays. That he had a massive block. He had a 3. And then Lou had his awesome and one over Jakob Poeltl, went sliding across the baseline screaming. It was such fun entertainment.
That was where I felt like this game really married the Thunder's mental toughness with its physical toughness, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a ton of mental toughness required to come back from down 23. But the physical stuff, the Kenrich tap out of a long rebound, Lou's the shortest guy on the floor at the end of this game. He's going into Jakob Poeltl's chest, a big burly center, and he just straight up overpowers him, finishes the and one, and wins. That was kind of the nail in the coffin. And we had a great opportunity to talk to him in the walk-off interview afterwards. And of course, he's being mobbed and surrounded by his teammates. And it was just so clear, like, this is a team that is really putting those two things together. Of course, there's a long way in this season to go, and they're going to have these moments where they don't put both of those sides of the equation together. But when you see it come to fruition, it makes for some incredible nights. And I'm so happy that this happened at Paycom Center with the home fans able to experience it.
Oh my gosh, just the atmosphere in the building. You could tell the fans were like, okay, I'm getting more bang for my buck here. This is incredible. 10 more minutes of basketball. More, and the game was an early tip-off, wasn't it? It was like a 6 p.m. tip-off instead of a 7 p.m. tip-off.
Sunday night game. Yeah.
And it was hilarious because we got home at the exact same time.
We're sitting there in post-game media availability, and I was like, wait a second. This is exactly when we would be doing this normally. Chris Fisher made a great point on our game broadcast on Bally Sports Oklahoma that the 2 overtime periods took 58 minutes of real world time
Oh my goodness.
to complete. So that's
there's the extra hour.
There's the extra hour right there. Yeah.
Well, obviously the Thunder outlasted the Raptors in that game and just an incredible feat of mental and physical toughness. Then they went out to Utah. That game was really tough. Another really gritty game against the Jazz. I mean, every single time these two teams have met this season, it just seems like it's kind of a scrap between these two squads. The Thunder dropped that game, but the beauty of that was that they had 3 days in between games to just kind of rest, recover, and fill their cup a little bit.
Yeah, and something happened after that Utah game that I think connects back to a point that you were making about the Toronto game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a quote from Chet Holmgren, who noted that, the Thunder is getting played very differently by opponents. You talked about this with the way Toronto defended the Thunder and was extremely aggressive with Shea.
Mm-hmm.
Utah did it in a different way. They really sat back in a zone, and then they kind of it was almost like a box and one a little bit. They put Chris Dunn on Shea and then kind of zoned up behind him. And Chris Dunn, very physical, long athlete. There's a reason why he was drafted 5th in the NBA draft a handful of years ago. And Chet made the point afterwards, you got to take it as a compliment when teams are throwing different things at you and are doing stuff that they're not used to doing.
Exactly.
This is not how Utah typically defends.
Utah's not in practice every day going over their, box and one junk defense. That's not something they're working on regularly.
Yeah, and Chet said the key for them, and this was the sentence that really stood out to me. I think his capper, the third sentence, is what really got people's attention, but the second sentence is what stood out to me. He said, you have to keep that same eagerness to attack whatever they're doing on a night-to-night basis. And it connects to something that Kenrich told me once, which is this team finds it very fun to solve these problems together. They think it's really it's kind of invigorating to okay, hey, here's something that this other team is doing. How do we work together as a team, as a 5-man unit to orient ourselves differently around that? And then the last sentence that Chet said was hey, if you're seeing the same looks every night, that means that you're not winning.
You're not winning.
Yeah, you're not beating anybody. And so I think that's where he kind of gets this is a compliment standpoint, is this team right now, the Thunder, they've gotten the results on the scoreboard, and that's what's gotten teams' attention.
Yeah.
And so they're going to continue to see this stuff. And oh, by the way, they're going to continue to see this stuff for the next few years as well. And so teams are, you made the other point, teams aren't going to just let you beat them.
Come on.
And so, and so the reason I bring this up, I wanted to ask you, in your playing days, do you remember a time where you and your teammates kind of had to problem solve something big like this that a team was throwing your direction?
Yeah. Cause in college, I played at Belmont, and we were known as the 3-point shooting team. We were had the best 3-point shooters in the conference. They called us Splashville. That was just our thing. And so teams, which, typically you had a couple of good shooters on a team, but when everyone out there on the floor had the green light, a lot of teams were just throwing 2-3 zones, box and one, full court press. Don't let them get down. And so we had to really work on problem solving in real time like this, where it's okay, how do we get our point guard the ball where she can, it was a lot of tango screens, a lot of, cutting and moving. And we had an offense where it was just a lot of read and react. It wasn't just set play call, run this to get this one option. It was all right, here's the action. Figure out what you need to do within this action.
Play ball after that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, and a lot of that, it grew over time, just like this team right here. And, my freshman year, we weren't very good at it. And by the time I got to my senior year, it was, we knew it like the back of our hands, and we knew what to expect going into it. And it is fun when you figure it out, especially when you don't know what you're going to get coming into a game. A team throws a 1-3-1 zone at you, and you're okay.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, and it just takes you a minute to calibrate.
Yeah.
And that's something that this Thunder team, despite losing a very tough, hard-fought game at Utah, a lot of teams have dropped games in Utah this season. It's nothing to hang their heads about. But I think it's a great kind of outlier to the fact that the Thunder in general has figured these things out over the course of the season. As time goes on, they're going to have more and more of these things to figure out.
Definitely.
So thanks for sharing your experiences there.
But I will say, in college basketball, zone is a lot more prevalent, I would say, than obviously the NBA. So it's we saw zone a lot more often because a lot of teams had zone typically just
and you can hang out in the lane more defensively. There's no defensive 3 seconds in college, so you can kind of just stand there and be big.
Just be big and take up as much space.
But how much fun is that when a coach tells you, like, you kind of get into a set and then you're like, okay, go play basketball.
Figure it out.
And you hear that sometimes from coaches.
And it's a great vote of
like,
confidence too. Like that's what every player wants whenever they're out there.
This is just how we're getting started.
Exactly. Just initiate the action. You guys are good basketball players. I'm trusting you that you will find the right opportunity out there on the floor.
Nice.
And we did. It was great. It was a lot of fun when we started knocking down shots, even though Exactly. It's just like, I like, you ever just like gone and played pickup basketball? And
yes, can confirm.
You would like go play pickup basketball, and then like suddenly you're like, why is this person picking me up so early? Like why are there two people on me right now in pickup basketball?
It's because you're really good.
It's because you're good. And that's like, all right, okay.
Yeah, there's no better compliment than the team like retreating back on defense and somebody being like, shooter.
Or like someone just like aggressively denying you the ball so that you don't get it back. It's like, all right, I see where I stand here.
I'd love to know how that feels someday.
You can come to Michael Cage's church league and find out. It'll be great. All right.
We've been to the church league.
We have, and it's so fun.
It's good.
It's like, good. Especially after, me and my 3 knee surgeries, going and playing in the church league. It's a nice
Michael
change
does
of
his
pace.
Statue of Liberty thing, and it's like, come on.
But you know what's great about Michael? He only shoots threes now. So it's like he's not like this big, massive force in the paint. He can be if he chooses to be. But a lot of the times, I would say like 85% is like just choosing to knock down the 3-point line.
For some reason, Michael ends up down on the block when it's game point.
Interesting.
In the whole lead up, he's behind the 3-point line. But when it gets down to game point, suddenly he's down there.
I wonder why. That would be the case. All right. So as we mentioned, we're recording this on Friday, February 9th. That means after this podcast, we're going to head out to the airport and take a flight because we are heading out to Dallas for a quick 1-game road trip, taking on the Dallas Mavericks on Saturday. That game's going to be at 2 p.m. So just make sure you have that circled. You're not waiting until 7 to turn on Bally Sports Oklahoma. And then after that game, it's a quick turnaround. Come right back to Paycom Center on Super Bowl Sunday, and we're facing off against the Sacramento Kings. That game is going to be at 2 p.m. Central Time as well.
Yeah, the reason for the 2 p.m. is obviously you want to play on Sunday before the Super Bowl and not interfere with that. And so the day before that, you've got to have at least 24 hours between tip-offs for that back-to-back to be legal in the NBA. So that's why that Saturday game's on at 2 o'clock as well, which is great. Hey, my kids get to watch the game. I love it. Yeah.
I get to get home before halftime and watch Usher perform. That's the only thing I care about.
Nice, yeah.
And then the final game before the All-Star break, Tuesday, in Orlando, taking on the Magic. That game's going to be at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and it's a TNT game. So it's not going to be on Bally Sports Oklahoma. I know. Like, don't send in as many emails, furious emails. We know, but
we'll still be on the ground though. So check us out on all of your at OKC Thunder social channels and the website and everything.
And then after that, it is the All-Star break, and as we all know, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and our very own Kason Wallace and Keontae Johnson.
Keontae Johnson's going to be there too.
Keontae Johnson going to be there for the G League game. They are all going to be representing Oklahoma City in Indianapolis.
We are going to be so busy. We are going to be so busy
all over Indy. But we do this for you. So be sure to come back to the Thunder Basketball Universe podcast during All-Star Weekend, after All-Star Weekend, because we're going to be on the ground. We've got all of the intel, all the insight, everything that you need to know to follow this team through one of the most fun weekends in the NBA.
There are going to be so many Thunder cameras in Indianapolis.
A lot
just to
of
keep
Thunder
track
cameras.
of all of these guys that are there. And it's so fun. I mean, Shai, this is kind of a different year than it was last year for him, being an all-star starter. There's kind of a little bit more pomp and circumstance. Yeah. I would imagine, at some of his media availabilities, there's going to be more people crowding him than in years past, And for guys like Chet and Kason, I mean, this is sort of a dream deferred for Chet by a year. And, I think the level of gratitude that he's demonstrated to this point about the experiences that he's gotten to have this year after what happened last year.
Right.
I think that will again surface. And then Kason, he He's a man of few words, but I'm sure that this is going to be really, really special for him to be able to experience all of this. And J-Dub too, of course.
Yeah.
He's a man of many more words than Kaysen.
Much more words.
Yeah.
And he's the veteran of the squad at this point. You know, went to Rising Stars last year, back again this year, so he can show Chet and Kaysen around. My favorite quote this season was asking Mark about Chet, Kaysen, and Dub making the Rising Stars game. He was like, yeah, it's great. I'm just glad the distraction is over because I could really tell Kaysen was just like gunning for it.
Kaysen, who like plays in the tightest box ever and does like, but you know, he's expanding that a little bit more. We didn't let people know. Chet and J-Dub are going to be on the same Rising Stars team.
Yeah. They're on team. This is amazing. Team Jalen Rose.
Yes. So
Jalen Williams is playing with Jalen Rose. I just thought that was great.
Yeah,
there's just too many Jalens. There's a lot of Jalens.
Maybe it'll just be Jalen Holmgren for the game, just to even make
sure
around.
Cohesive.
Kaysen, I believe, is on Pau Gasol's team.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so they were all talking about how they wish that they could all be on the same team together, but I guess we'll have to see him go mano a mano. It'd be really fun to see Kaysen guard J-Dub. Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome.
That's what I was like, oh yeah, that'll be a fun matchup. You know, Pau Gasol is going to be like, go get him. Yeah, go get Dub. That's you.
And what a great showcase for Keontae Johnson. Also, I mean, Mark Daigneault talked about that as well, just being a great opportunity for a guy like him to, look, the G League, kind of an invisible, space at times. Yeah. Not every team around the league gets to watch every game in the G League, and it's, they're not on national TV every night, right? So what an opportunity for Keontae to be able to get out there and play. And great validation that what he's doing a good job. And he's kept his head down. Kept his head down, doing good work, and just this is some nice candy for him, as a reward. Just keep doing what you're doing. Mark likes the broccoli and Skittles analogies. He does. We've gotten a couple sprinkles of it this year. It's been great. Ooh, sprinkles, nice. See what I did there? Okay, thanks. Well, that wraps up our podcast today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up and catch you later.